NATO has rejected implementing a no-fly zone over Ukraine as it believes it will be an escalation of the conflict. A no-fly zone is an area where certain aircraft cannot fly for any number of reasons. If a no-fly zone is imposed over Ukraine, it would mean that Russian aircraft would be violating that if they fly their warplanes over its western neighbor to carry out airstrikes. Now, a no-fly zone would naturally have to be imposed by a military power. So if NATO imposes a no-fly zone, it would mean that the alliance would have to get semi-involved in the Ukraine conflict, a move it wants to avoid. NATO has not committed its forces to fight in Ukraine. Western allies have been supporting in terms of supplying weapons and humanitarian aid. While NATO supports Ukrainian resistance and condemns the Russian invasion, it does not want to get more directly involved in the fight and risk escalation between nuclear-armed nations. Putin's aggressive stance over a nuclear conflict has instilled concerns in the West. If NATO were to impose a no-fly zone over Ukraine, it would be compelled to drive out Russian planes that invade the airspace. That would mean NATO would have to aerially shoot down the planes violating the airspace. Russia would read this as aggression and an act of war, which would escalate the conflict and possibly lead to the use of nuclear weapons. NATO's Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said on Friday that a no-fly zone over Ukraine is not an option being considered by the alliance. We've agreed that we should not have NATO planes operating over Ukrainian airspace or NATO troops on Ukrainian territory, he said. NATO was a security alliance formed during the Cold War years to protect a coalition of Western nations against Soviet threat. Since the collapse of Soviet Union in 1991, many erstwhile Soviet nations have joined the NATO alliance, a move Putin views as a threat to Russia.
Subscribe to Oneindia channel and never miss an update.